Always ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. Coming to you live. It's been live. Say what's up to the people, Dad.
Hey, as I said last time, we really appreciate you and we admire you for your knowledge, sophistication, and devotion to true democratic and humane values, which is what we're all about on this live show.
Wow, 2 audience shout-outs 2 weeks in a row. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Wow.
They deserve it.
Okay.
Now. Once again, we have walked through the looking glass with Donald Trump and his loyalists. We have walked into a world where down is up, where war is peace, where falsehood is truth. You know, I can only compare it to Alice's going through the looking glass, or maybe if you're a devotee of old Superman comics, the Superman bizarro world where everything is upside down. I'll explain what I mean.
Okay, explain then.
What happened to Mike Waltz, Sam?
He's out of there. He's no longer the national security advisor. He's been moved to the UN ambassadorship.
Yes. Not only is he out,
right,
a bunch of other national security staffers are out.
Get him out of there.
And let me remind you what Waltz did, right? Number one, he communicated sensitive national security information. You know, they claim it isn't war plans or isn't classified. You know, if you believe that, man, as you know, I got this big bridge waiting to sell you. In what universe is revealing the weapons to be used, the target and the timing of the attack, not a war plan, not sensitive classified information?
To be clear, I believe Waltz was the one who set up the Signal chat, and Hegseth was the one who actually posted or sent the war plans.
Absolutely. But what did Waltz do? Not only on a Signal chat where they said, do not put any classified information on that chat, right? They were warned.
Oh, they were? I didn't know that.
Yes, you don't do that because it's encrypted, but who can easily penetrate those encryptions, Sam? Who has the capacity?
Myanmar.
Yes, exactly. They probably do, actually. Yeah. Probably almost any nation can do it, much less China and Russia. And it was Waltz who was so incompetent that he inadvertently put an Atlantic reporter.
No. To quote him, the Atlantic reporter was sucked into his phone. That's what he said.
Exactly. Who, you know, yeah. I mean, they give us as I said, bizarro world, looking glass world. They give us the most crazy, the most insane. They must think the American people have no common sense. How anyone could buy that kind of explanation, you know, just staggers the imagination. And, you know, he attacked the reporter, right?
Right.
As if the reporter was to blame, as you say. Somehow the reporter did this, even though it was Waltz,
right,
who put the reporter on the Signal chat and never should have set up a Signal chat in the first place. It's not just one error. It's compound errors that luckily did not cost American lives. He should have been bowing down to that reporter for not releasing that information that was so irresponsibly put on a Signal chat instead of attacking and disparaging him. So Waltz is out. Only one national security advisor, as far as I know. You know, I hate to prove a negative, but as far as I know, only one national security advisor under one president has been out more quickly. Do you know who that was and who the president was?
The president was Trump, one, and I think it was Michael Flynn.
Michael Flynn.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, who pleaded guilty later of lying to the FBI, but was pardoned by Donald Trump. So he didn't break his own record, but he certainly came close. And you had a complete revolving door of national security advisors. I think there were 4 of them under Trump, and at least a couple of them, including John Bolton, a staunch conservative with, very strong credentials in foreign policy. I don't agree with much that John Bolton stands for, but he's no lunatic left-winger. He is a hardcore right-winger, and he has blasted Trump, both for his incompetence and for the fact that he poses a clear and present danger to our national security and our democracy. Could not be more blatant. But enter J.D. Vance.
What a loser.
Yeah. The only thing you can say about Vance is he says incredible, ridiculous things slickly with a straight face, as if he's really telling you something. And he has claimed that, oh no, Waltz was not pushed out for this incredibly dangerous, incredibly incompetent act. He was promoted.
No.
Yes, he was promoted.
What?
Yes,
He said
was
that?
promoted. This is what he said.
Yeah, right.
Promoted to the UN ambassador, a Senate-confirmed position. What does Trump think of the UN?
He doesn't like it.
Not much. It's one of those, international organizations that he despises. In fact, do you know who he had first appointed to the UN ambassadorship?
Nikki Haley?
It's close. Ellie Stefanik, a member of Congress.
Nikki Haley last time.
Yeah. And then he pulled her, removed her because he wanted her back in Congress. One seat in Congress was more important to Trump than this so-called glorious UN ambassadorship.
Vance actually said that. He said, he got a promotion.
Got a promotion.
Who's going to, after all this fiasco,
Yes.
they move Mike Waltz and they claim it's a promotion. I mean, give me a break.
Well, this is the same guy who still claims he won the 2020
Good point.
election.
Good point.
Let's not forget, or that everyone wanted Roe versus Wade overturned. You can go, and you just had an amazing thing come out from, I think it's Pam Bondi, who I had warned about before she was appointed. She claimed that the fentanyl seizures at the border saved 258 million American lives. That's almost the entire adult population. 258 million lives.
Aren't there like 300
We have
million
330
people?
some odd people in the country, yeah.
Where's she getting that math from?
It's the same kind of crazy math that Trump used to justify his tariffs. And of course they claimed Obama and Biden were just letting fentanyl rush across the country. By her logic, 258 million Americans should have died from fentanyl-related illnesses under Trump, under Biden and Obama. And of course, it was a minuscule fraction.
But there is a massive fentanyl problem in the United States.
And absolutely. But that doesn't mean you lie about it. Doesn't mean you make things up that are incredible on their face.
Right.
I find it actually easier to believe that Waltz got a promotion than I could believe in their first 100 days they saved 250 million American lives.
Oh, and this week Trump said that the economy is Biden's fault.
Of course it's
Right.
I'm surprised he didn't say it was Obama's fault or
Right.
Franklin Roosevelt's
Hillary
fault. Anybody but me.
Hillary Clinton's fault.
Hillary Clinton's fault. And anyone's fault but me. I have nothing to do with the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all Biden. Meanwhile, of course, the economy was booming under Biden. Under Trump, not only did it slam on the brakes, but it went backwards. Economy lost growth under Trump, whereas it was booming under Biden.
I saw a chart that showed the day of his announcements or the day of his tariff fiascos, and you could see the exact correlation between his words, his actions, and the stock market crashing.
Yeah. So now it's not just the stock market crash, it's the whole economy.
Right.
Which impacts all of these ordinary folks, particularly, the less college educated who have, minimal incomes, who voted for him. They are the ones hit hardest, not the rich people who invest in the stock market.
It's interesting because on his 100-day parade or whatever he did speech, he had this banner behind him that said jobs, jobs, jobs. and he's probably fired more people as president than any president in the history of the United States.
And guess what happened to federal spending under his watch while he's firing all these people? Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, it's going up, even though he's claiming he's saving all this money.
Yeah, you've heard me explain many times what Musk is doing doesn't save any money, in fact, may cost the government money. You're losing valuable workers who are important for the economy. You fire people, they're not spending money. They're not paying taxes. They're collecting unemployment compensation. You fire IRS people, you lose hundreds of billions of dollars in uncollected taxes from Trump's very rich friends. And the frightening thing now, you know, they wanted to save in this budget, and I don't know if it'll ever get out of Congress, $150 billion, not million, $150 billion. And as every independent analyst has pointed out, and as we've stressed on this show, what do you have to cut to save $150 billion? Given that they're not cutting defense, they're raising defense, and you can't do anything about the debt service. What's left in terms of big ticket?
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security.
Exactly. And now, apparently on the horizon are deep Medicaid cuts. Why go after Medicaid and not Medicare and Social Security? Because old people vote, right?
Right.
You're not going to cut benefits first for old people. You're going to cut it for the poor and the near poor, who have less political clout, but who are most vulnerable in our society. That's their MO. Go after the most vulnerable people you possibly can. Tens of millions of less affluent Americans depend upon Medicaid. And how popular are these Medicaid cuts, Sam?
Not.
More than 3/4 of the American people oppose them. A majority of Republicans oppose them. This is not something that the American people are demanding. It's something that the American people are deeply, dramatically opposed to for good reason. Why in the world would you want to deprive people of medical care? And by the way, you think you're going to save money on that?
No.
No, they're going to have to get medical care one way or another.
One way or another.
And they're going to be flooding into emergency rooms, right?
Hold the mic a little higher.
They're going to be flooding into emergency rooms, which is vastly more costly than what is being covered on Medicaid, which is an efficient, cost-effective program. How much fraud have they documented in the Medicaid program?
I assume none.
None. In fact, they really haven't documented more than a minuscule amount of fraud anywhere in the government. They just say there's fraud and waste, just like they say, you know, illegal immigrants are voting. And, you know, there's no evidence, and all the evidence is contrary to what they are claiming here. It would be, you know, a humanitarian, political, medical, budgetary disaster, as well as, you know, human cruelty to cut Medicaid. They don't seem to care about cruelty. You know, they don't seem to care about firing people who are doing their jobs well, who might have disabled children and are struggling to meet their medical bills, struggling to put food on their table, struggling to get housing. They don't care.
Can I ask you a question? Back
Yes.
to Waltz.
Yes.
One, Rubio has now replaced Waltz.
Yes.
Right. So now he's what? He's got like 8. Rubio's now got 8 jobs.
Yes, I'll explain that.
And I'm wondering, do you think there's any chance Waltz doesn't get confirmed?
Oh, I think there's an excellent chance
Really?
Walt doesn't get confirmed.
Interesting.
It's a real test. I'm going to talk about confirmation in a moment. But Marco Rubio, remember what Trump called him in derision back in 2016?
Of course, Little Marco.
Little Marco is now great, big, giant Marco.
With 8,000 jobs.
Yes, it reminds me of the great Gilbert and Sullivan play, The Mikado, when there was an official who they call the Lord High Everything Else, that he has all of these positions. And of course, it's a big joke and it's satirical. But now Marco Rubio, Little Marco, is Lord High Everything Else, Secretary of State. national security advisor, head of USAID, and even head of the National Archives.
What?
Yes, of all crazy things. No way you can do those 4 jobs. Now, why is he relying on Rubio, Sam? There's one good reason. He's the one damn person in the cabinet who has some credentials and some real standing on Capitol Hill. A long-term senator, a fairly well-respected senator, well-liked, as opposed to all these other unqualified crazy people like Pete Hegseth and RFK Jr. and Linda McMahon. I can go on that he's populated with his appointments. Rubio's the safest guy he has. That's why he's made him Lord High everything else. But I think Waltz is not going to just sail through. I want to make one other point.
Oh, please do.
About these removals at the National Security Council.
Okay.
I can't prove this, but there's a lot of reporting saying that Trump is being advised.
I'll hold it for you.
That's all right. I got it.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That Trump is being advised, by a right-wing extremist and anti-Islam bigot. You know who I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Laura Loomer. A well-known, well-established extremist in every regard. Here's what she said. I'm quoting her when she was running unsuccessfully for Congress.
And this is in your new book.
In Florida.
Right?
This is the new book.
Right.
It's all in here.
It's all in here,
You
folks.
want to learn anything about what's going on and how we got there? Pre-order my book, or certainly order it once it comes out. This is what she said. This is the person who apparently has Trump's ear, at least according to reporting.
Yikes.
Islam is a cancer on humanity.
She said that?
I'm quoting. Islam is a cancer on humanity, and Muslims should not be allowed to seek positions of political office in this country.
No, she didn't say
It
that.
should be illegal. You want to check me out, Sam?
What?
I know how to read. This is someone who has Trump's ears on national security, who has no national security, significant credentials. Not only is she, a bigot when it comes to Muslims, but she's a far out extremist on virtually every issue. And even conservative Republicans are very worried about Loomer having influence in the Trump administration. That's just how far it has come. Now, can we move on to another topic, or do we want to further discuss
I just have
this?
a quick question. Has she ever been elected to anything?
I don't think so. She tried and lost,
Right.
as far
I'm
as I
reading
know.
her bio. It says that she was Republican nominee in 2020.
2020 in
she
Florida.
lost. In 2022, she lost again.
And this is the kind of thing she's saying.
Right. She shouldn't be elected. And
she shouldn't be anywhere near a presidential administration.
Right.
She shouldn't be within shouting distance. Shouldn't be within phone distance of a presidential administration.
before you get to that, we actually have a poll running, Dad.
Oh,
you know that?
You didn't tell me.
Well, Savannah put it up, so
Savannah's very smart, too.
Yes.
We're lucky to have her.
Yes. The poll is, do you think Hegseth will be out by Memorial Day, May 26th? 60% now say yes.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, you know, what Hegseth did was worse than what Waltz did. He's the Secretary of Defense. And he twice...
They'll promote him and send him to the...
Myanmar.
They'll promote him and make him the ambassador to Finland.
Yeah. No, he likes Norway better, I think.
Okay.
It'll be the ambassador to Norway, not Finland.
Right.
So, Hegseth was worse. It was Hegseth who got this national security, war plans information, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. It's a violation of my view. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's a violation of the Espionage Act, which doesn't refer to classified information, just to national security information.
Why don't you just get a law degree so you don't have to keep saying that? Just go get a law degree. You don't have to keep saying I'm not a lawyer.
You think I can get a law degree in like 6 months instead of 3 years?
No.
Oh, well, then I think I'll pass.
Okay.
So I have to continue to say I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot about these things.
Right.
I have been an expert witness in 110 legal cases.
110?
110, that's a lot. It's over 45 years, but that's still a lot.
I thought Trump always says he doesn't like losers. Why is he keeping Laura Loomer around him? Think about it. She's never won a single election. He always says he doesn't like losers.
Beats me, you know. If you think that what Trump says is consistent or truthful, again, I've got that big bridge waiting for you. So before we got off on that, what was I talking about?
I don't know. Something you've talked about a trillion times. I think you were talking about how it's Hegseth. The things that Hegseth posted was, we just got a $100 donation.
Oh, nice.
From Bonnie Miller saying, "Yup, let's pick on the poor. They are all cruel." Laugh out loud. I'm not
exactly. Sure. That's who they always pick on. The most vulnerable, the people least able to defend themselves, the undocumented immigrants, the poor, federal workers who are probationary and can be fired at will. They always go after the most vulnerable and those who are hurt most by what they're doing, including their own voters, who are really the ones most impacted by everything that they are doing. Now, there is a bit of good news. There is a judge. I think he's in Texas. Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. Guess who appointed him?
DJT.
Exactly. And he just ruled on Trump's summary deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. This Trump-appointed judge said, quote, "The court concludes that as a matter of law, the executive branch cannot rely on the AEA, the Alien Enemies Act, based upon the proclamation by Trump to detain the named petitioners and the certified class or to remove them from the country." He found that the, quote, "plain ordinary meaning," which, conservatives are supposed to stick to, of the Act's language, which includes terms like, quote, "invasion" and, quote, "predatory incursion." These terms refer to an attack by military forces. And I'm paraphrasing here from the news reports, and do not line up with Mr. Trump's claims about the activities of Tren de, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Aragua, a Venezuelan
Tren de Aragua.
Tren de Aragua, I got it. And he cannot invoke the Alien Enemies Act. This Trump-appointed judge has said to summarily detain or remove people who are not part of a military attack on the United States. The plain meaning, which is what conservatives claim that they believe in, according to a Trump-appointed judge, clearly indicates that what Trump is doing is in violation of the Alien Enemies Act. Very difficult for Trump to claim this guy's a lunatic, leftist, Trump hater, out to get him. And he's not the first conservative judge to scathingly rule against Trump. We had quoted previously on the Abrego Garcia case, Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson, one of the most conservative, most respected conservative judges, was considered for a while as a possible Republican appointee to the Supreme Court. This very conservative judge also blasted Donald Trump for his lawless actions. So, I'm wondering if he's going to be able to hide behind the courts. And meanwhile, his loyalists in Congress are trying to pass legislation to hamstring the courts from issuing contempt citations, which are coming because of the cavalier way they're disregarding, as we pointed out, court decisions, not overtly, but by delay, obstruction, and deflection, the typical Trump MO that he's been operating on since the early 1970s. And they're trying to get this through under what's called reconciliation, which is supposed to be reserved for tax and spending bills only, not a substantive piece of legislation like this one. Meanwhile, one of the most important Trump appointees seems to be in trouble, and that's Mr. Martin, his appointee for U.S. attorney in the most important positions in D.C. Well, it turns out this guy was heaping praise on one of the most virulent anti-Semites, guy who said Jews are like a plague of locusts, among other.
No, he didn't say that.
The nominee didn't say that, but the guy who was praising said that.
Oh.
And then he claimed in the hearing, I didn't know. Well, NPR said he knew. We told him. We provided him the information, and he just disregarded it. This guy also failed to disclose 200 media appearances, including media appearances. Get this. Where's the worst place you could be on media just about?
Russia.
Russia. State-run Russian media. This will be a test. If any nominee, and I keep saying this, is not only unqualified, but manifestly dangerous. This was a guy who also attacked police officers who were badly injured on the January 6th insurrection. There's so much baggage that not only says he's not qualified for the job, but he's dangerous for the job. And everyone should shudder if he gets the job. And Republicans have said, we're concerned. We'll see. And we'll have another litmus test with the Waltz confirmation. It turns out Trump may have done a good thing, and I'll give him credit for it. You know what that was? Just happened with Ukraine?
No, I missed it.
The raw materials deal.
Oh, that was a while ago.
No, that just got signed either today or yesterday.
Oh, I missed that.
And that seems to be a good thing. The details are not hashed out. I haven't really seen them. So I'll reserve judgment, but I am willing to give Trump, credit for at least one thing that does seem to be good for both Ukraine and the United States. Ukraine gets a certain degree of American support. The United States get access to certain important rare earth minerals and other natural resources. I don't know all the details. It has not been ratified by the Ukrainian parliament. Parliamentarians have said, we haven't seen the final details either. But if this turns out to be a good thing, it is something, along with, 100 other terrible things he's done, I will give him credit for.
Wow, I don't know if I've ever heard you give credit to Trump for anything.
Because he hasn't done anything good until this. But what I understand, it does not include U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine.
Yikes.
Or leave to enter NATO.
Gotcha.
So, again, I'm willing to give him preliminary credit pending, further elaboration of the details and actions by the Ukrainian parliament.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else on your mind?
There's a lot on my mind, but what's the time?
9:27, 9:28.
Yeah, I think we can go to questions now.
Should we check the Knicks score?
Yeah.
Let's check the Knicks score, everybody.
That's really important for me.
Someone said on my live, the after show, that they want more sports predictions on Lichtman Live.
Oh.
91-79 Knicks.
All right. I hope it's the fourth quarter.
No, 2:13 left in the third.
All right, but that's a good sign.
Yeah, they need to win this game. Is it in New York or is it in Detroit?
It's in Detroit.
Oh.
So, I still hold most of my old New York sports loyalties, most of which for the last 15, 20 years have not been very positive.
Oh, I don't want to hear that.
But they want to hear more about sports.
No, but
right?
I don't want to hear that your New York sports is not good. You like the Yankees, who are like perennial championship winners. The Giants have won.
The Yankees haven't won a championship since, 2009.
You've got the Giants who've won 2 championships. The Knicks
Knicks haven't won since the 70s.
Yeah, that's the only. The Knicks. That's the only team I'll give you some.
Since
credit
I was
for.
a young punk, even younger than you.
Really?
Yeah.
No, you must have been 48 in the 70s.
But, if the Knicks get through Detroit, they have to face the Celtics. That's going to be tough.
You're not going to beat the Celtics.
Well, we'll see. That's your prediction, right? See, they want sports prediction. You just made one.
There you go. The Knicks will, if they get past this round, which I predict they do, they will not beat the Celtics.
And I predict my New York Giants will do much better this year than they did last year when they only won 4 games.
You sure?
Not a hard prediction.
You sure?
Well, it's a prediction.
If it was over or under, I'd probably pick the over, but barely.
All right, we'll see.
We'll see.
The nice thing about these predictions, I always make predictions definitively, not, like Nate Silver, who gives you these probabilities so he can never be wrong.
Or Cenk Uygur, who claims he's always right but has no actual proof that he said it.
And he contradicts himself constantly.
Right.
I pointed this out in our debate.
Right. He changes his prediction during the election year.
Yeah. So no matter what happens, he can claim he's right.
Right.
Anyway, I love our audience. You have some housekeeping things. And let me remind you, you can still sign up for my course.
Oh, right. Housekeeping things. We have 1,200 people watching, but only 400 likes. Get those likes up, guys. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you know we're live. Become a member or donate. That gets you in the queue to get your question asked to this guy, Allan Lichtman.
It also keeps us going. We actually have employees beyond everything else we spend on.
I'm an employee.
Yeah, not me.
Well,
no, but Savannah,
you're the talent.
Oh, shouldn't the talent get the most money?
Oh,
doesn't work out that way here.
Well, our first question is from Philip H. They say, and Philip H. often gifts memberships, so shout out to Philip H.
I love Philip H. Yeah,
you do?
He's been a long-time loyalist.
Right, long-time loyalist.
Long-time loyalist. I said it right.
What are you, the king of England? You need your loyalists in a row?
Only Trump gets loyalists. We have audience, and
Nice.
He's been a long-time audience member.
Right.
That's what I meant by loyalist. I don't want to get into trouble. If I stumble on a word, all the critics jump all over me, right?
Right, when you said blasphemy, right?
Yeah, which I did not mean in the religious sense. I'm like the least religious person you can imagine. I meant in the common sense of lying and defaming someone.
You think you're the least religious person someone can imagine?
Probably not.
Probably
no.
not. What about
Probably
like
not.
a Satanist? They're probably less religious than you.
They probably. Well, no, they have their own religion. I don't have an organized religion. Doesn't mean I'm not spiritual. Just means I'm not a big fan of organized religion. But I'm not going to go into that now.
Okay. The question is, I feel like Waltz was removed for some other motive. Signalgate was over a month ago. Why now? Could it be to open up the slot for someone else?
Well, the delay is easy to explain.
Okay. Explain it.
It doesn't look as much like he's firing him for Signalgate. If he fired him 2 days afterwards, it'd be very difficult, even for Vance, who just says anything with a straight face, to say, "Oh, I'm not sure if they fired him. He resigned, I believe. I'm not certain about that, but I don't think they actually fired him.
He stepped
removed
down
him
or something, yeah.
If they had done that 2 days afterwards, even Vance couldn't, I imagine.
Well, like you said, they still say they won the 2020 election.
I know, but it would be much harder to say with a straight face that he's being promoted by delaying a month, letting Signalgate fade a bit.
Right.
As absurd as it is, and I can't imagine anyone believes it, it does make it easier to say he's being promoted, as nonsensical as that is. And, certainly they are opening up the spot for someone else. I don't think Rubio will be, over the long term holding that position.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Does Trump love you?
No.
So does Laura Luma love you? That's even more important.
Don't even. That's horrific.
Yeah, no kidding.
Our next question is from Brian Gilbert. They say, Prof and Sam, knowing what we know about Pete Hegseth, do you think that Matt Gaetz was just a Trojan horse all along to distract Congress and the public? Great show, and I love the interaction of this political dynamic duo. Thank you.
I still think Matt Gaetz was absolutely a Trojan horse. Coming in, he had even more baggage than Pete Hegseth. After all, there are credible allegations. I don't even want to go into them, about relations with underage women, some kind of trafficking, financial improprieties, and he was up for Attorney General.
Jesus Christ.
Law enforcement legal officer of the United States. And I always thought that he would put Pam Bondi, who didn't have the baggage, had credentials as former Attorney General of Florida, but was just as bad, would do everything that Trump wanted, even claiming Trump saved 258 million lives in his first 100 days.
You were the first person I heard say that Matt Gaetz was a Trojan horse.
Yep.
Or maybe you didn't use that term exactly, but something in that vein.
Yeah, I think I used the term a feint.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing.
Kind of like what I do to you on the basketball court. I go, wow.
Hey.
Did you hear that? My elbow cracked.
That's what you get for trying to diss your old dad.
Philip H. says, the guy who asked the first question said, I'm getting a Lichtman loyalist t-shirt.
Oh.
There you go. Lichtman loyalist is catching on.
Yeah, inadvertently.
Peggy Cox says, this is an executive order that Trump signed yesterday. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. He plans to deploy the military into our cities. For what? I'm concerned he is preparing to declare martial law.
You should be concerned.
Are you aware of that?
I had not seen that. It said, when did he say he signed it? Today or yesterday? You know, you think I made up the term Gish Gallop. I did not.
You did. No, you did.
You found it on the net. I did not. It's
right.
You pour out so much stuff so quickly, stuff that, is really dangerous, and you can't keep up with it. I follow these things, but I also have a bit of a life, and, it's just too much for anyone to follow. And this is absolutely chilling because there is something called the posse comitatus law.
No, you made that up, too.
To look it up.
The posse comitatus law?
From the Civil War era.
Come on.
The posse comitatus law, which says you cannot use military personnel for law enforcement purposes except in extraordinary situations of a national emergency, like the Los Angeles riot that was getting out of control. But this is really chilling. He could well be declaring a national emergency on law and order or declaring martial law, and indeed using the military in our cities to stifle any kind of dissent, protest, to jail people that he doesn't agree with. It's very, very frightening.
So I just fact-checked this. It is in a executive order from April 28th called Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens.
Yeah. Who does Trump think is a criminal?
Whoever he
doesn't like.
Right.
Whoever's challenged him in any way.
Right, here it is.
Who does he think is innocent? January 6th insurrectionists who injured more than 140 police officers, some of them seriously. The insurrection led directly or indirectly to a number of deaths, but these are the innocent.
This is crazy.
And people who write op-eds that he doesn't like, they're the criminals.
Also, is he just going to govern the rest of his term just completely from executive orders? Is he not going to try to govern at all from, like he's supposed to?
How well did he govern with Congress in his first 4 years?
Not well.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Infrastructure Day?
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Whatever happened to the new and better health care plan and the repeal of Obamacare?
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Yeah. The only thing major they got out of Congress was a big tax cut, primarily, not entirely, but primarily going to the wealthy and the corporations.
Right. Here is the executive order that our, like you said, a very intelligent viewer pointed out. And, sorry.
That's all right. I don't need that anymore.
It was on my computadora.
It's absolutely chilling.
And here's what they cited right here.
Yeah, that's the meat of it.
Yeah.
And he's also holding state and local officials accountable.
This is probably I'd be interested to read this. This might be the most fascist thing he's done yet. If you actually
and that's saying something.
Right. If you actually probably read the fine print of this, it's probably Mussolini-style fascism.
At least.
Crazy.
And, yeah, we will read this and we will talk about it in depth at another show. But just that one paragraph is absolutely chilling. And then talking about state and local officials, elected officials, that he is going to be going after, who happen to disagree with him.
That's crazy. All right.
It's worse than crazy. It's absolutely un-American, inhumane, and incredibly dangerous to our democracy. That executive order alone, presumably, I haven't read it in its entirety, could by itself destroy our democracy.
Is there any benefit? I was just talking about him ruling by executive order. Is there any benefit for him to do this? Because one, executive orders can just be overturned very quickly by the next president, and two, he might have, for a lot of these things, he has to go through the court system. If he was actually to do it properly and go through Congress and make it law, it might actually be much harder for him to put these things into concrete.
Well, remember, he thinks he's a king.
Right.
He says, I'm saving the country so I don't have to follow any laws. I can do what I want. This is consistent with Trump's MO. He wants to act like a king, like an autocrat, controlling everything by himself. Plus, you can do it way more quickly.
But I'm saying there's...
I got your point, and I'm going to get to it. Hang on. Yes, it can be repealed 4 or 5 years later. Meanwhile, it's done all the damage that Trump wanted to do. Even if in 2028 a Democrat's elected and repealed it, these things will have been in effect for 4 years. All the damage will have been done, and it's not easily undone no matter who the next executive is. That's the point. The final point is it is incredibly difficult to get things through Congress because except for tax and budget things, though they're trying to fudge that, it takes 60 votes to get it through the Senate, and there's no way he's going to get 60 votes. Plus, they have a razor-thin majority in the House as well. So,
what about the judicial side of things? That a lot of these executive orders are being blocked by judges.
Assuming he's going to obey what the judges do.
Yeah.
That still remains to be determined.
Have you listened to Chris Murphy's Trump corruption videos? Is it smart to start impeachment proceedings? I think we're going to get that question every week about impeaching Trump.
Not with a Republican Congress.
Right. Even doesn't matter how many videos Chris Murphy makes.
I'm a big Chris Murphy fan. I like what he's doing, but this is not the time to raise impeachment. Just be a big distraction, and it's an exercise in futility with the Republican Congress. And by the way, how many times was Trump impeached?
Twice.
And what did that do to him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, he lost the 2020 election, but
I don't think
he still
that was
served a second term.
Yeah, exactly.
We still got two. People say like, oh, well, he lost 2020. It's like we still got 2 Trump terms. We still got
exactly
as bad as it can get. Basically, two out of two Trump terms. 2, what I'm trying to say.
2 non-consecutive Trump terms.
Right.
Exactly.
He still served 2 terms, whether they're
Right. Now, of course, he wants to serve 3, 4, 5,
Yeah. I think you should serve 3, 4, 5.
I'm as old as... Never mind.
Oh, yeah. Why are gun violence survivors not allowed to sue their elected officials for not adequately passing gun safety laws? After all, they can do it to gun manufacturing companies.
And it's really hard to sue gun manufacturers. It's become possible, but under George W. Bush, they passed a shield law for gun manufacturers. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I know, you can't sue elected officials for what they don't do.
Right. The U.S. and Ukraine signed a critical mineral deal. We talked about that. What were the terms? Do you think it would be enough to help Ukraine retain it? You think retain its sovereignty? I think you answered that.
Yeah, right? I just want to,
add to
make one quick point. On its surface, it looks good. But as I've said many times, the devil is in the details. And we'll have more on it when all the details come out.
Right. Good point, Dad.
But I have given the Trump administration preliminary positive marks for this. Preliminary.
Right. Can administration officials be punished after they leave office for contempt of court orders?
That's a very good question. And I've never seen that happen. Whether it's legal or not might be an undecided question. But I would imagine so. I would think. We saw officials being held in contempt like Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, when they were not in office. So
Right,
I think that's
true.
very possible.
Right. In recent thoughtful interviews, Ezra Klein, Thomas Friedman discuss the transformative impact of artificial intelligence and other critical policy issues. He emphasized the importance of addressing climate change, advocating clean energy technologies, and fostering innovation in domestic manufacturing to compete globally. Who in the body politic is articulating a positive vision for America's future that American people can support in the midterms?
Well, you know who I'm a big fan of, right, Sam?
Cory Booker, AOC.
Cory Booker and AOC, exactly. And I think they are finally finding a compelling message that does seem to be resonating with the American people. Remember, this administration doesn't believe in climate change. They don't even believe in researching climate change. They don't even believe in mentioning the term climate change. It's been erased from the federal government, and all research supported by the federal government that addresses climate change is gone. And by the way, what did Trump say about climate change in 2009, Sam?
We need to address it.
He said, it's a crisis. We have to address it, or our future on the planet will be gone. And in fact, we can address it, and it would help the economy. What's changed since 2009? The science is far stronger, and the manifestations of catastrophic climate change are all over the country and the world. And it's hitting most, not entirely, but hitting most states that voted for Trump, like Arizona or Missouri or Kentucky or Florida. You know, they're getting tornadoes and storms and floods. And they're putting their heads in the sand on climate change, even though 16 years ago, Trump recognized what a threat it was.
I think the only thing at this point that's going to save us is technology that doesn't eliminate it, but just deals with it at this point.
Mitigation technology. Yeah. But again, they're shutting down all the research.
Right. Well, Trump is the worst possible option, I think, right now when it comes to saving our planet. It's very,
scary. Very scary. I just read something which said 75% of bird species are on the decline. You've heard of the canary in the coal mine?
Yeah.
You know, birds are harbingers of what's going to happen to human beings.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's very, very scary.
Cosmo Trilby says, Trump and his bird posse keep digging themselves a deeper and deeper hole with regards to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. First, they say they're powerless to bring him back. Then they start smearing him with disinformation. Now, Trump admits that he could bring him back if he were so inclined. Do you think this will all come to a head eventually? I find it hard to imagine what the final outcome might be.
I agree with you. It's very difficult to know what Trump's going to do from minute to minute, much less day to day. And he absolutely contradicted himself, saying, of course I can bring him back, but I don't want to. And they are smearing him, even superimposing. I don't know if it was photoshopped or, just a superimposition on his knuckles, MS-13. And Trump claims that was, in just a recent interview, that was real, when in fact it was phony. He has no such MS-13 tacked onto his knuckles, and pictures of him absolutely prove it. A majority of the American people now want him back and oppose what the Trump administration is doing. It's something like 50 some odd percent want him back, 20% say no, and the rest say they don't have enough information. So it's almost 3-1 against the Trump position. And this is now consistent. We talked about this in the last show. On almost every matter, every issue that the Trump administration is addressing, they're underwater. Not just with Democrats, but deeply, deeply with independents. And on some issues, like Medicaid cuts, they're even underwater with Republicans.
Pin Hansen just gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That really helps.
I'll tell you why they keep digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole, because They don't care what they do or say. They've never been held accountable for anything. So they can be hypocrites, contradict themselves, say lies. They've never been held accountable. Again, Trump won 2 terms. So that's why they keep doing it, because they can do whatever the F they want.
And it's not just Trump never being held accountable as a politician. He's never been held accountable as a business person, going all the way back to the early 1970s, when the Justice Department found he was violating the Fair Housing Act by discriminating against minorities in New York. In his real estate company, he slipped out of that. He slipped out of 5 bankruptcies. He slipped out of untold failed projects. We can go on and on. He's never been held accountable for anything. So why would he stop?
Right.
You know, he's almost 80. He's been getting away with it for 50, 60 years. Hey, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always been doing.
Right. Have you seen anything from the nationwide protests today for May Day? Alex Kawa says that they went to one in Massachusetts today.
I just heard that there were many thousands of people across the country engaging in May 1st, May Day protests against Trump. I've not seen a final count, but, you know, this has been going on for some time. And I made the point last week, I'll make it again. It's not just the polls. Number one, all the polls are converging. You know, there may be 1 or 2 outliers, but overwhelmingly the polls are converging in the low 40% to the high 30% range for Trump's approval. Not only that, there's confirmation from other data. People getting out in the streets to protest. Republicans, even in Republican districts, being afraid to hold town halls because people are shouting in protest against what Trump is doing. And then there's consumer confidence plunging to the lowest level in 20 years, and the economy now contracting. So it's not just 1 or 2 polls. It's not even just polls. There are multiple indicators showing deep dissatisfaction with what Trump is doing. We've never seen anything like this, except maybe in Trump's first term, but not for any other president.
Philip H., who we talked about earlier in the episode, just donated 5 memberships.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. And also, again, shout out to Bonnie Miller, who gave a big donation earlier in the show.
And you can see how hard we work on these shows. It's not easy. And there's a lot of planning and research that goes into them. We just don't talk off the top of our heads. And when we don't know something, we admit it. Like I said, I hadn't seen that executive order. And once I read it, we'll talk about it more.
Are we heading towards a recession?
Again, I'm not an economist, right?
Oh.
But those who follow these things, and I don't trust them much. My great late friend, Jack Germond, the great journalist, once said, there's an economist on every street corner in Washington, D.C., and not one of them agrees with any other. But lots of economists who don't agree in anything else agree that it's at least a 50-50, maybe 60% chance we're heading to a recession. And that was before the data came out showing negative growth. I am worried, though, Sam.
Uh-oh.
Because all of this depends upon honest and accurate data coming out of the government. And I am fearful of what they're doing to the government. You know, firing people, destroying experience and knowledge, putting in their loyalists. I worry whether we're going to continue to get reliable, impartial information.
That's a scary thought.
It's a very scary thought.
I was about to ask you something. So for the keys, there needs to be 2 consecutive quarters? Or what's the recession? The keys, there's some sort of
measure. There are 2 things. Okay. One, the National Bureau of Economic Research declares a recession and doesn't declare it over. That's the main measure. Another.
And what is that measure?
They have their own formula. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
But they're the gold standard for recessions.
Okay.
Although they can be a little slow. And there are some who say 2 consecutive negative quarters, although I'm not ready to pronounce that this time because the decline was so small. It went down as opposed to the booming economy under Biden, but it was only 0.3%. That could be revised. You know, it's such a small difference.
But so this down 0.3%.
That's not a recession,
right? But that is a full quarter of measurement, or no?
Again, I don't necessarily go with that. It's, I'd rather go with what the NBER says.
Okay.
Especially when it's so close. If it was 5% down, then another 5% down, I'd have no question.
Sure.
But, this is within probably the error margin of the estimates.
Right. The Senate rejected bipartisan measures to undo Trump's tariffs. Is there any hope to undo Trump's tariffs?
Yeah, that was just, reprehensible. I think it was so close that J.D. Vance had to break the tie. And one Democrat was away who could have tilted the vote. But it just makes my point, right? Republicans have no principles. They know how disastrous these tariffs are, but they still don't have enough principled courage to do anything about them.
Buck chickens.
How are we doing on time?
5 minutes left.
So I'll take 5 more questions, if we have them.
I don't know if we have 5 more questions.
I'll take 3 then.
Okay. A lot of
I
these
am running a little out of energy. This has been a very energetic session. We've dealt with so many different issues and such great questions.
Yeah, I don't know if we even have 3 more.
All right, we'll take whatever we have.
Let me see. Do you think Trump will serve all 4 years of his term?
What do I hate to do?
Hypotheticals.
Hypothetical
Right.
Speculation. And I'm certainly not a physician. But the guy, and he claims he's in wonderful health. I have my doubts.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. I have nothing more to say about that.
Gotcha.
He's not going to be removed by impeachment. He's not going to be removed by the 25th Amendment unless he has a tremendous health crisis that does not enable him to perform the duties of the presidency. That's what the 25th Amendment is all about. You don't remove a president because you don't like him.
Uh-oh, the Knicks are down by 2.
Oh, no. They are so good at blowing it.
Oh, my God, it's tied.
How much time?
6 minutes left in the
Oh,
fourth.
my God. They were up by 12 just a few minutes ago.
Does Carney's victory make Canada safer from Trump's tariffs and threats of annexation?
Well, the threats of annexation were never real. He's not going to annex Canada. And no, it doesn't prevent him, as far as I can see, from the implications of Trump's tariffs. I don't think Trump believes that he was in any way responsible for Carney's victory or the defeat of the Conservative Party. So I'm not at all certain that it makes Canada any safer from the tariffs, but I wouldn't worry about annexation. That's, a lot of hot air on the part of Trump, but it's not real.
People want to know what this picture is behind us. What is this? I think it's...
I don't know. I have to see it.
It's...
Oh, we're in Italy.
This is Italy?
One of the caverns. Yeah, one of the caverns with a lot of water when you were a little kid.
It was from July 29th, 2002. Let's see if I can show it to the people.
You were, what, 10?
I was 10, yes. And you were...
Don't say. Don't say. I was younger.
Yeah, this was Italy?
I believe that was Italy, but I'm not positive.
We were hiking in Italy.
Hiking in Italy.
Your shoes are pretty cool in this picture. I didn't realize you used to wear cool shoes.
Oh, I don't wear cool shoes anymore?
Well, you do actually.
I think I do, yeah.
I'm wearing hiking boots.
Yeah. I never wear hiking boots. Never once.
Why is that?
I just feel more comfortable in running shoes.
Oh, well, you're wearing basketball shoes.
Or basketball shoes, which have the ankle support.
Yeah,
I've never twisted an ankle.
Yeah, I guess basketball shoes are as good as hiking shoes for hiking.
I guess,
right?
although Mom keeps saying they're not.
Oh, well.
And she's always right.
Right. We'll put that back later. All right, our final question of tonight is there a limit to the number of executive orders the president can write?
There isn't.
Really?
The champion of executive orders, because he was dealing with World War II, was Franklin Roosevelt, who issued thousands of executive orders. Trump holds the record for the first 100 days, but there is no limit on the number of executive orders that a president could issue. That's very scary thought, but it's true. Very scary, but true. All right. With that, we will wrap up Lichtman Live for the night. You got to go watch the Knick game. Let's see. Should I check in again?
They're losing.
By how much?
2.
I've never seen a team that is so adept at blowing leads.
I want to watch.
They keep building up these leads and then quickly losing them.
I want to watch the Knick game, but I have to do the Lichtman Live post show.
Oh, I don't know if I, have the energy or the fortitude to watch the Knicks blow it.
You want to hear a crazy story? So it was, I forgot which NBA Finals it was. It was Heat versus Spurs, I think. So maybe it was 2014, something like that. And whatever, it was Game 7, I guess. Do you
And
remember
the Heat
this?
was way behind.
And the Heat
with
were
a
way
minute to go,
behind.
And I said it's over.
Well, he does this all the time where he'll turn off the game with like a minute to go or like 30 seconds to go.
But you wouldn't let me turn it
Well,
off.
yeah, this time I was like, it's not, come on, let's watch the rest of this game. And it was the game that Ray Allen hit that crazy
miracle three,
yeah.
yes, from going out of bounds in the corner.
You got to stop turning off the games before they're over.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
What are your final words to the people?
Right. It's bad enough what's happening domestically. But, the kinds of people that Trump has entrusted with saving and protecting our national security really ought to frighten every American, regardless of your political inclinations. This is not a political issue. This is a matter of competence, knowledge, and ability.
All right. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you for watching. The good news is
the
Lichtman Live post show is coming up right after this. So if you want to keep hanging out, check it out.
Not as heavy duty as this.
It can.
It can be, huh?
I just let it flow. If it gets heavy, it gets heavy. If it doesn't get heavy, it doesn't get heavy.
Well, that's because you're young and sharp.
Right.
You can go with the flow.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.